You can say what you want, but I never been scared. Never been scared. Never been scared.
Welcome to the More Than Sports Podcast, where everyone has a story. On today's episode, I speak with Ohio native Josh Copeland. Josh attended Fairborn High School, where he was a standout in the sports of basketball and football. Josh was rated the 128th best safety prospect in the nation by ESPN during his senior year. Josh elected to attend the University of Buffalo to continue his football career. After college, Josh battled with anger, alcoholism, and many other issues as he transitioned into life after football. Josh later, with the help of his friends and family, was able to get on track and started to support others where he found he had his greatest struggles. Josh is now the Chief Executive Officer for Josh Copeland Speaks and Learning to Cope, his motivational speaking and coaching platforms. Locally, Josh helps to support the Dayton Foundation, where he assists in supporting the community. Josh also started a nonprofit called the Melanin Club, where he supports providing golf equipment to underprivileged communities. In Josh's spare time, you can find him co-hosting his podcast called Tips and Yips. Josh has dedicated his life to working with leaders who struggle with inner happiness and peace. Josh provides workshops, professional development, and life coaching. Thanks for joining today's episode. Now let's start the conversation. Welcome to the More Than Sports Podcast. I am here with Josh Copeland. He is Mr. AKA Motivational Speaker, Mr. AKA Mr. Development, Mr. Workshop. So he's definitely taking some time out to come on the podcast today to share his story. So welcome. How you doing?
Hey, Marv, man, thank you, man. I'm glad to be here. I love what you do, man, so I'm excited to get this thing going.
Right. Well, no, thank you, man. Like I said, I saw Josh's profile on his platform that we're on. I read a little bit about his story, man, and then I got excited, man, so I reached out to him. And, man, we definitely clicked immediately, man, had a lot of synergy, man, as far as a lot of things that he's doing out there as far as helping athletes transition with their life after sports. So, man, I knew that it would be super important for him to get him on, man. I know he had a lot to share about his story. So we'll get started and dive right in. So, can you tell me, when did you start playing sports?
Man, I started playing sports at a young age, man. So I have four brothers and two stepsisters. So my parents divorced when I was younger, and then my dad remarried and had a couple kids. But growing up, I have four brothers, so it was five boys. And a way for my mom to kind of get us out the house and get us active and keep us out of trouble was to just put us in sports. And so I'm the second to youngest. So I was always trying to compete with my older three brothers, like just trying to, we're a big baseball family. So we played baseball. My parents played baseball. So we played baseball. So that's how I started out, baseball. And I was just always like a real physical kid. So, like I didn't mind contact. And my brothers was like, "Man, you got to get him in football." Because he's just like, I wanted to be like them. And so when I was playing against them, it would just became naturally easy because you have to put forth a different level of strength when you're a young kid and you're playing against people who are 5-6 years older than you. So that kind of helped me out when I played against kids my age. I was like, oh, if my older brother can't tackle me, you can't tackle me. You know what I'm saying? Like if I could tackle my older brother, I can definitely tackle you. Or if I can hit off my older brother, I can definitely hit off you. So I started playing sports, man, probably about 5 or 6 years old. Just in the backyard, and I played t-ball, organized sports, probably at 6, and then it kind of took off from there.
Okay, cool. So all of your brothers play organized sports, or did one or two of them did, or you all guys just all kind of felt in line and started playing sports?
Yeah, so we all played baseball. My brothers, we're very athletic family. And so baseball was it, and we all played on any like all city teams, all star teams, travel teams, select teams. We all played baseball. And then I trickled into football. My younger brother played high school football, and then I played basketball. So I was kind of the one that kind of ventured out and did other things. But yeah, no, we all played baseball, and it's fun watching your brothers compete, and then trying to be like them, trying to compare stats. You know what I'm saying? Like just like the inner family competition, and then whatever we did at the house, it just magnified. So we were a very competitive family.
So you like myself? I have three brothers, two older. So was a lot of your equipment the equipment that your older brothers no longer wanted? That you were
100%. It was like, I mean, like cleats, gloves. I remember my brother and I, we was playing a game and we had like one glove. So he would play the game and my game was right after it. And he would give me the glove to play. And same with cleats. And then my foot got a little bigger. So like I was getting like different cleats and my brothers were kind of mad because my foot outgrew theirs. But yeah, man, it's like, you just get what they don't want, but you love it though. At the time, it's like you don't know any different. You just play. My mom had this saying. She said, Michael Jordan didn't have Jordans when he was growing up. So, and I was like, that's true. So she was just like, you gonna take this and you gonna make it work. I was like, all right, I got you.
Right.
So that's how it was, man. But you loved every minute of it.
Well, yeah, and even just from that aspect, man, getting something from your older brother, man, is like a badge of honor. Like,
It really is. It really is, man. I was like, man, you did this with that. I'm gonna do it, and then they like passing it down with the expectation that you're gonna uphold whatever they did with it. So it really is, man. And I would prefer that over brand new glove or bat or brand new cleats
Right.
any day because it's like sentimental.
Absolutely. So like you said, you kind of started around 6 playing organized ball. So as you got into elementary school, was that just something you played in school, or how were things set up there? Was it like an outside rec league during like your elementary time?
Yeah. So we had for baseball we had like a little league, a community citywide little league. So we all played that, and then I grew up. It's a smallish town. It's called Fairborn, Ohio. It's I kind of right outside of Dayton. And so we had like 5 elementary schools, 1 middle school, 1 high school. So in elementary, you had all the 5 schools just play at this one little league. So you're cool because you're playing against people that may be at a different school, but you'll see when you get a little older because you're all the same grade. Um, so yeah, we just played around there, man, and it was a lot of fun. And we had pee wee football at the same spot, so it's a real small, tight knit community. So they watch you from when you're like fourth, fifth, sixth grade, and then you get to high school. You with the same kid you was playing against, and they watched you. Their parents watched you. Everybody knows you. So it's a real tight knit community from that
Was
aspect.
that similar as it relates to, like, I guess we're maybe looking at the football aspect of it? Were you guys in the same system, like play calling and things like that as you were moving up? Okay.
No, so that's one of, and I talk about this with a lot of my old like high school teammates and friends, is that that's one thing that we lack, is that same system all the way down, because we play surrounding schools, and I'm in Ohio, so it's like farm town, right? Farm country, big boys that just play, but they're in the same system. So then it's obviously watered down for little league and pee wee, but it's the same type of system. So about the time they get to middle school, they've run in the same plays for a couple of years. By the time they get to high school, they run in the same plays for a couple of years. The running back runs the same as the running back that was in middle school. You know what I'm saying? So from that aspect, we're a little behind. But yeah, I wish we would switch that to be consistent throughout.
Yeah, they have some of that, where I grew up, and it wasn't throughout everywhere, but there were certain areas, like you said, we'd have a certain school district on the outskirts. They had a system that they were running from elementary all through high school. So, like you said, they
Mhm.
didn't bat an eye, man. Everybody knew if they was running that veer, that they've been running for 8 years. So,
Man, exactly. Everybody knew their role, so it wasn't no going back and forth. If one kid kind of shot up, then he maybe switched, but for the most part, the running back was the running back. You know what I'm saying? Like the receiver was the receiver. Lineman may drop some weight and thin out, and then become a running back, but it's still the same system. So that and then they don't blink an eye. They just ready
right.
to roll.
So at what point, while you were playing, did you kind of determine or figure out, you know, I'm pretty good at this. Because like you said, you get a lot of accolades maybe when you make certain plays at that age. In elementary from maybe coaches or things of that nature. But at what point, and obviously your brothers are pretty big critics as well. But at what point did at
Right.
what point did like you recognize, like, 'cause, you may make a good play and think you did good, and your brother may tell you, all right, it was all right. But
Yeah.
at what point did you recognize, like, all right, well, I'm actually pretty good at this?
Man, I never really thought I was really, really good until about maybe high school. Maybe. I just thought because I was always trying to compare and compete with my brothers. So I was like, whatever I did, they already did. If I hit a home run, they already hit a home run. If I scored a touchdown, my little brother scored a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? So it was never really like I was like, I have arrived. But there was one incident, man, where I was like about fourth grade, and the varsity coach had came down to watch our Pee Wee game. And and I think I had like 3 or 4 touchdowns, but it was like a lot of, and so our games were back to back. So like the third grade played, then the fourth grade played, then the fifth grade played, and the sixth grade. So about time fourth grade, you have the second and third graders fans still there. You had the fourth and fifth, so it like we had a lot of people there. And I remember like I was like, wow, this is like, and I'm kind of doing well. Then I remember the varsity coach came up to me and was like, all right, man. So that's when I kind of knew I was not better than everybody, but I was like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. But like I said, I always compared myself to my older brother. So I was never really satisfied because I was like, no matter what I did, I would never do it first because they already did it. And then when I got to
I'm
high
about to say,
school, I
and they
think
probably
that's
let you
when
know too. So,
Oh, 100%, 100%, 100%, man. It was our backyard games were a lot harder than any game I played growing up. So like that was just honestly the games I played were just practice for my backyard because I'm like I got to practice because I got to play my brother. So I wasn't really worried about with anybody else. But then when I got to high school, man, I played varsity basketball and baseball as a freshman. And then I was 3 sport varsity baseball, basketball, football as sophomore and junior years. So I at that's when I kind of knew, all right, I am a little bit. I have a little bit of a gift, if
right,
that makes sense. Like I'm just a little. Something's connecting with me faster than it is people my
right.
age.
Yeah, because you can put a football player out there. He can play football. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to translate to the baseball diamond or the
Mm-hmm.
track or the basketball court. So for somebody to kind of
Mm-hmm.
touch multiple sports and have the opportunity to excel at it, that's special. Absolutely. So
Yeah, and I think I was like I said, credit my brothers and credit my mom, my dad. They never really pushed us to play sports. They encouraged us, but it was never really something that like it was that important because there were times when if we got in trouble at school or we got in trouble in the house, my mom would pull us from the game and didn't care when it was. So they always kept us grounded in that aspect that okay, it's a sport, but it's kind of just a sport.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's bigger things, but then once you're young and you're kind of succeeding at something, you don't really
Right.
realize or visualize it as just a sport. You're like, no, this is my life. This is what I do every day and all day. Like I live, dream, sleep, eat sports. So this is just who I am.
Well, and I think that's an interesting aspect because some people they relish, or now that they're looking back, they would have relished that their parents would have been a lot more stricter on them as it relates to playing and not maybe letting
Mm-hmm.
them quit certain things like that. But I mean, like you said, to your aspect, you didn't need any pressure. Like you were going to play regardless. Like your brother plays. I guess you had a little bit more of a community. Um, you know,
Yeah.
so you did. So
Yeah. No, I
no, go ahead.
no, just for me, like I was just gonna play. Like so all my brother and my parents, to their credit, they let all of us be different. So they never pressured me to be like my older brothers or do what they did. Our brothers, we had that just because we're competitive. You know what I
Right.
mean? But like our parents never really was like, oh, your brother hit 2 home runs, you gotta go out there. No, they was like, I could care less. Just go out, be a good person, show good sportsmanship and be a good teammate. That was their whole thing. And then whatever fell may, however the chips fall, they may fall. But they never really pressured us. But no, I give them all the credit because they never burnt us out of the
Right.
sport. And I think that a lot of kids, especially young kids and young and parents, they kind of can make a kid hate a sport even if they love it because they're pressuring them and they're not making it fun. They're making it as a job so much as a young age that they don't allow the kid to have fun, make mistakes, just play the sport because every sport's a kid's
Yeah.
game. Like but when you're professional, you're getting paid a king's salary, a king's ransom for, a child game. So my parents allowed us to just be kids and just enjoy it. So I give them all the
Right.
credit.
Absolutely. And it's funny you think of that, man, because like I say, I'm coaching, my some of my kids' games now, and there's a player on the team. She plays better, a lot better, significantly better when her parents not there. So they're in the stands, they're screaming, they're yelling, things of that nature, and she can't respond, she can't play like she normally does, she can't be free. But when that parent's not there, she's lights out. So
Right. And it just goes, I mean, especially as a kid, you already have enough pressure. You never want to disappoint your family or your parents as a kid. You never want them to be mad at you for something that you did. So but as you know, sports is you can play well and then you play bad some days. It's ebbs and flows. And when you're scared to kind of try something, it hinders you and you're a robot out there. Then that's no fun for anybody.
no, absolutely. So once you got to high school, did you sense that there was a significant change in the level of competition? I mean, like you said, it was small area, so everybody kind of knew each other for the most part. But once you got to high school, and all of these schools kind of combined or converged, like did you sense a sense of like, hey, I need to step my game up, or was it just business as usual?
Honestly, it was business as usual because I was, like I said, I grew up playing against older people. So it was never, when I got to high school and I'm playing varsity as a freshman, I'm against seniors. My brothers were
Mm-hmm.
seniors. You know what I'm saying? So like my brother was a junior than people. So, and my other two brothers had already graduated. So I was like, I've been playing against people 4 or 5 years older than me my whole life. So for me, it was never really nothing like, oh, I was never really shook. I was just like, man, it's the same sport. Like, you know what I mean? Like football's football, basketball's basketball, baseball's baseball. They may throw a little harder, but they still got to throw it across the plate.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they may be a little faster, but they still got to get past. So it was kind of just business as
So
usual.
did you have trouble juggling playing three sports?
Not really, because like I said, I did it since I was a kid. Like I didn't play basketball growing up when I was like in elementary, but I always played baseball. I played summer baseball, fall ball, football, and then kind of in January, February here in Ohio, it's kind of cold, so I was just training and preparing for the baseball season. But my mom and I credit my parents. They monitored that. They would tell coach, no, he can't play in the summer. I didn't play AU basketball because my mom was like, no, you need a break. So so they monitored that and they made me, in a way, it made me like miss the sport, so I appreciated it.
Cool.
Like because when I was year round, when if I played AAU basketball, that butted up to
Mm-hmm.
football, that butted up to basketball, school ball,
Yeah.
summer camp. So it was like, so they didn't allow me to get overworked, and they didn't allow me to be overwork my body because it's like, no, you need rest, even though you're young and you may not notice that you do. You need rest. So I give them all the credit for kind of keeping me grounded and keeping my brothers like the kind of perspective, if you will, about
Right,
about
right.
sports.
Absolutely. No, that's important, man. I think, that's not emphasized enough, that even though, like you said, you're, 14, 15, 16, 17, you still need to have some of those breaks. And not even necessarily
Hmm.
physically, just mentally. Like you need some of those
Right.
breaks to just focus on, being a kid. Like that's
Hmm.
super important as well. Um so did you get any pushback from, maybe not your parents specifically, but from some of your coaches, as far as like maybe them wanting you to kind of choose a sport over the other?
Yeah, and I started getting recruited for football when I was a sophomore in high school. I started getting recruited, getting letters in the mail, people coming into school to see me, and I had an older guy at my school who was a year older than me, and he got recruited to play. He played football at Indiana. So as he was getting coaches in, they're like, okay, who else do you have? Well, we got this younger guy. Who else? So then I started talking to them. And my mom really was one that kind of was just like, all right, listen, this is what it is, but you still have to do certain things in order to make this happen as a
Right.
sport, right? So it was never really but my coaches, yeah, a lot of coaches, oh, you got to play AAU
Mm-hmm.
basketball. People will come to my high school games, talk to my mom, oh, can he play AAU? Can he try out for my AAU team? Can he play summer base? And my mom actually, ironically enough, my senior year, she pulled me. I played baseball and track in the spring. Ours was in the springtime. So I played football in the fall, basketball in this kind of winter, and I played playing baseball and track. And she pulled me from both those spring sports because she said, you know, at the time, like my grades, they wasn't the best, they wasn't the worst. But I had a scholarship to University of Buffalo, and it depended on how my grades did that spring semester. So she pulled me and she's like, no, you're she's like, you're going to mess up an opportunity that most people
Right.
don't get because you're trying to go around here and please a coach. Right. So she pulled me. So yeah, now we always got pushback. But my mom stood strong. My mom and dad, I promise you, man, till this day, we run into old coaches around town and they're like, man, we were scared of your mom. We were scared of your dad. Because if you did something wrong, they would literally, but they were kind of petty in a way because they would make us sit in the stands and watch our team play. Like they wouldn't it wouldn't like, okay, you can't go to the game.
You
No,
go.
you going, but and my mom would leave. She would leave. So I got errands to run. If I come back, you bet not be on that field. And so we had to sit there. So that's how they were. So at a young age, you realize that there's external consequences for, you know, actions. And so we got to see that.
Man,
Like, so yeah,
that,
no, they push back all the time.
that's outstanding, man. Shout out to Mama Copeland on that one, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Mon Duke. So she was on it. She was on it, man. Like, but she would make you dress up, put your jersey on, put your cleats on, and nope, you sitting in the stands. You are sitting right here. Don't go get no slushy. Don't no. You sit right here and watch this whole game.
Oh man. So tell me about this sophomore season, man. I said you had a game where you had 28 rebounds.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I knew. I'm about 6'1", but I was very athletic, and my mentality, I knew my role, and that's one thing that I tell everybody at a young age, and you know this playing in college, like do your job, right? Like just do your job, and so I knew. My role was a defender, rebounder. I could shoot, but that wasn't my main goal. We had point guards who could score 20. So if I got 8, 10 points, I contributed that. But yeah, no, rebounding was my thing, man. I loved it, man. I thought I was Dennis Rodman out there, man. I loved it, man. But yeah, I had 28 rebounds, I think twice, and I hit 20 rebounds a couple times. But yeah, it was one of those things, man. That's all effort. You know, like that's all effort, and a lot of it was tip balls and falling on the ground, and like so I was like the hustle man, but I absolutely loved it. Yeah, so that's kind of when I knew, not necessarily that I was better there, but I just knew I had a different mentality because I could see even in football throughout the game, you see people's will kind of dwindling down. You see them not diving as hard in the third and fourth quarter. You see them not running as hard. So I was like, oh, a lot of the stuff that I can control, if I just go hard all game, I'm going to get 5 more rebounds. I'm going to get 15 more rebounds. I'm going to get, you know, a couple more points. I'm going to get 5 more tackles. I'm going to get 15 more yards. And so that's when I knew, I was like, okay, this is, all I got to do is just, I'm already in shape. All I got to do is just mental you. You know what I mean? Like just outwork you on the court, and then at some point you're going to break. And so that's when. So yeah, no, I hit some rebounds, man, and I loved every minute of
So
it.
as you were playing, like during your sophomore year, as you were playing football, how did you kind of take that coming in? Like you said, you always played against older people, but you know that sophomore season, you're you know obviously playing a lot of varsity at that point. Like how did that season go, and how did you perform?
So I played. I played. I was a running back solely. I wasn't. So I went to college and played DB and linebacker. But I was my sophomore year in football. I was running back, and we had a great quarterback, a great receiver. We had a really great team. Our receivers had like 22 receiving touchdowns, and we played 10 games. We never made the playoffs, so he went off. Had like 1,500, almost 2,000 pass receiving yards. Our quarterback was all city, all state, all that. So we was really solid. We just missed the playoffs. But that's when I kind of got noticed a little bit because I was a sophomore on a pretty decent team. And Ohio is
Yeah,
pretty good.
football
It's
school. Yeah,
pretty decent for high school football. And we actually went 7-3. We missed the playoffs by one game. But like I said, we had a lot of people who had eyes on us. So yeah, but no, it was nothing different. I think I split time at running back. I maybe had 500, 600 rushing yards and like 5, 6 touchdowns. Um, but I had a couple games where I had some like 120 rushing yards and stuff like that. But yeah, it was kind of just, and that made me excited
gotcha.
for the next year. You know, and that made me excited for when I could play defense because I love to tackle. But we had like a senior who was a safety, and so I knew I wasn't getting that, but I was cool with that. I always was cool with whatever my role was on the team, and I just wanted to maximize
Right.
that
So you were
opportunity.
playing, you were playing running back on, splitting some time with varsity at running back. Like, were you playing any JV as well during? Okay, so you were
No.
strictly varsity.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nah, it's a varsity and special teams, man. And this is why I tell a lot of like younger guys who I was like, man, however you get on the field, maximize that rep. Like be the best, win that rep. I don't care if it's on special teams, punt return, kick return, whatever, win your rep. And that's the way you get
That's
more
good.
reps.
No.
Most people are pouting and like, oh, I'm only on special teams. Okay, well win your rep, make that tackle, keep making those plays, and then the coach is going to have to notice, and they're going to put you in a defensive scheme, right? Maybe it's nickel, maybe it's some. They're going to put you in because you're making
Right.
plays. Don't take it as, oh, I'm not good enough, or the coaches hate. No, do your job, maximize your role, win your rep, and then you'll
Right.
get more reps.
Absolutely, man. Now, anybody listening, that's great advice. win that rep,
I'm
win
telling you,
that play,
man.
win that rep. Worry about the next one after that.
Win your rep, man, and then win the next one, and then win the next one, and do your job. And the coaches, they have to notice, if you know what I'm saying, like they're going
Yeah.
to notice if you're doing your job every time, because that's
Right.
what you're there for.
So going into your junior year, obviously, like you said, you're going to be starting now. So are you still playing running back going into your junior year, or are you making that transition solely to defense?
No, so I played running back and I
Okay.
played safety. So I was two-way player. And my junior year was the best year for safety. I think I had 99 tackles as a safety, like maybe 2 sacks, a couple picks. But I was a tackler, man, and I was a hybrid before there was like hybrid DBs. So I was about 6'1", about 180 in high school. So I could come down in the box. I wasn't really the fastest. I ran like a
Okay.
4.7, but I could cover. But I was more of like that
Mm.
downhill, like Cam Chancellor,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, kind of guy. So I love to be. I played running back, and then I actually played. They actually had me playing quarterback because I had an arm, so they had me playing quarterback, kind of splitting time all summer, and then our quarterback got hurt. Our ninth game of the season, we went our junior year. We were
Okay.
terrible. We were terrible. We was
Oh
one and
wow.
nine,
Okay.
man. We were awful. We went from 7-3 to 1-9. We were awful. But I played quarterback. The ninth game we won, and then the 10th game we lost. And then my senior year, I played quarterback and
Okay.
safety. And I had a decent year, so I was already on the map for safety as a junior, and then quarterback. My senior year, I was offensive player of the year for my conference. Was all city for quarterback, and then DB. So I was like an
Mm.
athlete, if you will, that kind of just was able to just kind of I just love to play, man. So no matter where you put me, I
So
was just trying to play.
what kind of offense were you guys running? Were you
We
spread
was running
offense?
spread. We were in the spread, and this was 2005,
Mm.
6. That well, the spread was kind of it wasn't new, but not every. We still play people who ran like the traditional wing
Yeah.
tee and all that. So, but it was definitely the you could see the transition from in college. They were already into
Yeah.
spread.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush and all, and they was already into that type of thing. So, and it's funny because once you see that, you start seeing how they're recruiting people to fit those positions. So like the me as a safety, that downhill like cover tight ends, that was kind of going out because not many people were using real tight ends, so to say. Right, they was like, okay, you got a slot receiver, we splitting this guy out wide, and so they started recruiting people that was a little faster.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? A little bit
more
for
nimble,
specific
right.
things because you saw that exactly. So and as you get older, you can see how trends in sports and how the game's going dictates how people are getting recruited. So sometimes, and it sucks, but you may be a great player just in the wrong class.
Yeah.
Because whatever year that you're coming out, they may not need somebody like you, but whereas 2 years before they might have. 2 years after they might. So you might be just in that wrong window. But that's when I say you just got to know your role and just win your rep.
So you, like I said, you were starting at quarterback your senior year, and you were starting at safety.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
you didn't feel like you were getting overused at that point, because like I said, I think even at that point, like you said, you had, kind of talking to coaches and things like that, and you were getting that opportunity for your scholarship lined up as well. So you didn't think like maybe you were getting overexposed a little bit.
I didn't. Like my mom and my family did, because like we'll go 3 and out on offense, and then we'll punt, and I'll be right back out there for defense. So my coaches, so my coaches, they kind of monitored it a little bit. I would get a break or a series off as DB, but quarterback, I never really got a series off. So depending on how the game was going, second, third quarter, I would kind of get off a series here and there. But like I said, man, and it just fueled you, right? Because as a quarterback, if I made a mistake, I wanted to get it back on defense. On defense, if I made a mistake, all right, I'm coming right back at you at quarterback. So I never really thought I was overexposed because I really loved quarterback. But everybody was recruiting me for safety. So in the back of my mind, people was like, well, you ain't going to college to play quarterback. You going to play safety. So focus on what you're getting recruited as. But I was like, no, the team needs me. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to have that kind of balance and be like, okay, well, and my stats went down my senior year from my junior year for safety, simply because I was focusing a little bit more at quarterback. But I had went to a bunch of camps as a safety over the summer. I had solidified, that I can cover, I can tackle, I can do these things, and they just need me at quarterback right now.
So, kind of speak to those camps that you just mentioned. Like, was that something that you sought after, or was that something like your older brothers kind of told you about? Because a lot of people, even back then, like they were going to camps, but it wasn't necessarily widely talked about going to camps. And that's obviously a great avenue for you to get introduced to coaches and kind of help your process in the recruiting thing to move forward. So like, how did you get introduced to going to camps?
Yeah, we had our DB coach played football for Toledo. And so he was, he was solid DB. He was really good DB. And then he played arena football for a little bit. So he was always telling us, go to camps, go to camps, go to camps. So I had two of my friends that they're my boys. We would ride or die. We went everywhere together. We would just hop in a car and we would go to camps. We went to like a camp in Louisville. We went to any camp that we could. We would scrape up some money. My brother would pay some money. My mom and I would go to these camps because now I knew that this is exposure. Right, like this is exposure, and my coach would always tell us. He would say, never be scared of competition. Even if you lose being out there. Don't miss the opportunity being on the sideline. Miss the opportunity trying to make a play. And so we would always, and he would be like, if nobody steps up for one-on-ones, you step up. I don't care if it's 5 times in a row. If you get beat 5 times, coaches will notice that you trying, right? And so that was our mentality going into these camps. And man, I went to as many camps as I could, man, and trying to just, but it helped us out because now you're and we had I think at the time it was like the Nike camp, the Adidas camp, and so all these like not invitational camps, if you will, but it was a lot of at the time there was a lot of coaches. So we went to Ohio State camp. There was 100 something college coaches there, like 300 kids, but the college coaches are doing the drills, right? So it's you're doing the DB drill, one-on-ones, and the coach from Purdue is
Right.
lining you up, right? So it's like, so once that happened, and once I saw that, I was always I'm always trying to learn something from somebody. So I was like, if you've been there,
Right.
I'm trying to
Oh
learn
yeah.
everything. And so my high school coach was like, hey man, he's like, you're being athletic, you're gonna win some of these matches. You're not gonna win all of these one-on-ones, you're not gonna win all of these drills, but he's like, by putting yourself out there, you're gonna get noticed. And that's what happened. That's what happened. So I give him all the credit for that because it was, and that's why I tell any young athlete or anything, get as much exposure as you
Right.
can.
Oh
Like
yes.
like as much exposure, no matter what it is, no matter if you think you're not supposed to be there, if you think you're not, it don't matter. Go get exposure because if anything is
Right.
going to make you better. Playing with better
Right.
people going to make you better. Playing, you know what I'm saying? Like so that's
So
all
how's
my
your
advice
viewpoint
would be.
now? Like you were mentioning the exposure. So now we're in the Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. As far as exposure for athletes, and even a bunch of stuff on YouTube. Man, like a lot of athletes, they're not necessarily getting the exposure the traditional way. I mean, they're still going to
Hmm.
camps, things of that nature, but they're more building a social media presence. So, like, how do you like
Hmm.
look at that as opposed to kind of the traditional way of getting exposure?
Man, I wish we would have had some type of social media back in the day. Just because like there's certain things that you do that it makes it easier. It makes it easier to get exposure. But I with saying that, I'm hesitant to say that it's all great because I see kids and they only work out just to post it. They only
Yeah.
doing work just to post it. They're not doing it to get actually better. They're doing these basic drills. They're not doing in real time. They're not doing it in game speed. They just doing it to say that they were there and not really to get better at what they're actually doing. And so I see both sides of it. So I love it for because you can get exposure. It's a direct access to college coaches because you
Right.
can just DM them. You can send them your huddle. You can DM them. They can DM you. So it's direct access, which is great. But I also like a lot of it's there's a lot of people out there that get more
Yeah.
hyped than
Yeah. Well,
actually
and like,
worthy of it.
and we all know
You know,
that
like,
that tape don't lie. So once you turn it, once you turn that game film on, it don't matter what you was posting on social media. Like if you can't cover the flat, you
yeah,
can't cover the flat. So
it, the eye in the sky don't lie, man, and you can't like man, and but that's when you get exposed because you're like, all right, man, I'm doing it. But nah, if you getting exposed in the flat, you can't play your cover two, you can't be in your seam, you can't be in your hook to curl, you can't run this route against press coverage like that. It's exposed, and so you may post the two plays of the year that you actually got off the press, but the other 99, you were jammed up, man. You didn't get off the line, or you were locked up. So yeah, it's good and bad. But yeah, now I wish we would have had it
right.
back in the day because it would have made a lot
Right,
of
right.
things
So,
easier.
like you said, you were that sophomore year 7-3, missed the playoff by game, came back that junior year 1-9.
Hmm.
So, what was your expectations coming into your senior year? I mean, obviously you're playing both ways, but like did you guys have expectations, or did you have something in your mind as far as what you thought the season would look like, or what your record would look like?
Yeah, no, we had high expectations. Our senior year, we had a lot of seniors, and we've been playing together for a while, so we knew each other. We knew, what we were going to do, and I got a full summer of 7-on-7s at quarterback, a full summer of working out at quarterback, knew the playbook. Luckily, we were still running the same playbook, so now I understood it from a running back standpoint as well as a quarterback. And then we had high expectations. Did really well in 7-on-7s. Did really well in all of our scrimmages. Started off the season 5-1. We lost the first game in overtime and then ran off 5 in a row. So we thought, we in there. We like our first the team's gonna make the playoffs. We good, and then we got in conference play and lost the last four. So we ended up 5-5, man. So and I think I think a team went to the playoffs at 6-4 and 7-3. So if we would have just won a couple more games, and we lost one by like 7. And then once we knew we was out of the playoffs, kind of the balloon, the air came out of us, man. We were just like, all right, we got 2 more games left, but it really don't matter. Yeah, so it was expectations, but it's one of those things, and this is why I love high school sports. And I tell everybody, if you have an opportunity to play high school sports, play high school sports, because there's no telling what you're gonna do, but you'll have those memories forever. Like I still talk to my boys, man, if we would have won that one game, if I would have made that one play, like you still have those memories for a lifetime, and you'll never be able to go back and change them. But it's one of those things that you will always have, because high school sports, you're playing it. It used to be, you're playing it for the love of the game. Right. I think now with social media, they're playing it for different reasons in the same, like across the board, because now I'm playing it to D1 or bust. I'm playing it. So you're losing that aspect of like the purity. And now with people being able to sign endorsement deals and things, you're losing that pure. I love it because it's a sport kind of thing, but you get that high school community, right? And so like I still walk around my town to this day, and we won one game on a Hail Mary, and people still talk about it. Oh my God, when you did and you threw it to your boy, but so that's what I love about high school sports, is that camaraderie and that common bond across generations, because the dude that lives down the street played in the 80s at the high school. So there's a bond and a tie to it that is very special.
No, I would absolutely agree with that, because like you said, man, your grandpa might be there, your dad, you'll be there, your kids will be there. Like you said, the guy who ran the local grocery store for 20 years, he's talking about the game. So there's definitely a great synergy there, especially in those small towns like you were talking about. Man, sometimes the whole town shut down for the game. So it's nothing like it. Don't mess around and have some success, man. They be getting ready to make you the mayor.
Oh. 100%, man, 100%. When we ran off those 5 games my senior year, man, you couldn't tell us nothing, man. We trying to get free food at Taco Bell, because what I'm saying, like you can't tell us nothing.
Absolutely.
But that's what you love.
So how was your relationship with your coaching staff like during that time?
I love my coaches. And it was more so, and some of my teammates, they maybe not love them as much as I did, for various reasons, whatever that may be. But we're still tight and we're close. But I was my mom and dad, and I keep going back to them because they instilled a lot of great values and core values and stuff in us. They would always tell us, like, I'm not your coach, he's your coach. So whatever he says, you do it, even if you don't think it's right. You still do it because he's your coach. And there's a level of respect for the position, even if you don't necessarily respect the person in that position, right? And so, and that's kind of how I was raised. So my coaches, I still very close to them to this day. I still talk to them all the time, because without them, I wouldn't have been able to play college football, because there's just certain things, and I trusted them. I did, with a, almost to a fault, but it is what, what I'm saying? Like when nobody, my parents didn't go to college, my brothers didn't go to college. So I relied heavily on my high school coach, to kind of walk me through that process of the clearinghouse, of ACTs, of what that process is like. And I know that's not the case for everybody. I know not everybody has a coach that's trying to, look out for them. So I was very blessed and fortunate in that aspect. So I I truly love those guys, you know, to this
Right.
day. You know, there's at
Right.
my wedding, you know, like so. But no, I get it because I used to work for a program called Upward Bound, and we did like supplemental high schools tutoring and stuff to kids in inner city. And I would talk to the football players and athletes, and my coach ain't even giving out my film. My coach ain't even
Yeah.
doing nothing. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, like. You, so y'all in it for the wrong reasons. Like y'all in it. If you're a high school coach and you not trying to get your
Right.
players seen, you not in it for the right reasons. You in it to get yourself seen. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I view it because no matter what it is, there can be somebody on the high school
Oh
team
yeah.
can play D3.
Oh yeah. Oh
Somebody can play D2.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Some
Like
they got plenty
like
of
so
JUCO
now
spots. You know.
you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like so if you if in no in any sport, right? In any sport, if you play in varsity in any sport, you can play in college at some level. At some, if
Yeah.
you have any type of success, right? If you're any type of third team, all city, whatever, you can play some type of college sports. So it's just having those realistic expectations and conversations with them, but also the coaches like have a conversation with a kid like, yo, you are not getting looked at D1,
Mm-hmm.
but that's okay. There's D3, D2 NAIA. There's a school down the street who would love to have
Right.
you, and I think you should go. You know what I'm saying? Like as opposed to like, all right, well, this kid ain't no. Like, let them get out there and,
Right.
and do that for
Well,
themselves.
and yeah, man, like that's kind of a whole nother podcast, man. Honestly.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Sorry, I
No,
kind of went
no,
off
because
on a
I'm sitting
tangent,
there.
man. But I
No,
see
I'm
I see it
sitting
all the
there thinking,
time.
man, just from all of the conversations I've had, really probably at this point, hundreds of conversations I've had as it relates to why coaches get into coaching. Because like to your point, man, a kid can benefit so much from somebody advocating for them to go to school
Hmm.
because a lot of us are coming from backgrounds where our parents didn't go to school, our parents didn't even play sports, and a lot of us are in one parent households. So, you know, it's just good enough for
Hmm.
mom and dad to get you to the game or get you to practice. They don't really have the capacity to help support you. And, at that point, what they're viewing maybe is just something extracurricular. So, somebody who is, for the most part, being paid um, to help, obviously help the team be successful and win games, but also the other avenue to that is, help the students graduate. But then pushing those
Hmm.
who have the ability to play at the next level, no matter what level that is, and you articulated that beautifully. Like there's a spot for, I would assume, at least 70% of the kids, man, that play sports to some degree, and obviously, there'll be some that'll never play on any type of collegiate level, and some of
Right.
them don't desire to play. But I
Right.
would assume that, man, it'd be close to 60-70% of kids that if they truly wanted to would have an opportunity to play on a college level at some point. Now, don't get me wrong, some of the kids may not take some of those opportunities because of pride, and they think
Hmm.
they think they D1, but they really
Right.
D3. So it's nothing you can do with
Yes.
those. Reality will have to set in for,
Right.
for a lot of those athletes, but I just think, like I said, all the conversations that I had players that I played with would have, crawled over broken glass to have an opportunity to play at a D2 school, for just for those introductions, because they didn't even know how to do the introductions, man. I talked to guys, man,
Yes.
that they went around making their own tapes, and this where they were putting the VHSs together. So they in the room for 3-4 days putting together a VHS, and then they just putting it in the mail and
Woo.
sending it to coaches, not knowing that the coach will probably never see it.
Hmm.
And they're calling up to the
Right.
schools trying to get in contact with these coaches, leaving messages and things of that nature. And 50-50 where the coach even get the message. So coaches are getting hundreds,
Hmm.
if not thousands, of tapes, CDs, phone calls, and they're filtering against what they can. But to your point, they're getting those relationships with
Right.
those guys at those camps, and then people that are who are on their radar, and
Hmm.
obviously going to the playoffs and things of that nature are super important as well because you're getting additional exposure, and also
Hmm.
like I said, to that point, just building those relationships during those camps over summer. Like, like I said, a lot of kids didn't even have those opportunities or didn't even know about camps. I could say
Right.
I didn't even know about camps until my going into my senior year. I was like, people got camps.
Wow.
Like what's a camp? Yeah,
Yeah, you can
and
go.
they wouldn't, like, to your point, it wasn't even one that they were necessarily you had to be invited to. Really, you just had to pay your money. Like, if you get together
Exact.
$100,
Yep.
like, you come to the camp. If you get together 50, $75, and you can, they'll, for the most part, they were providing you food or, whatever. You come out there 2-3 days
Mm-hmm.
and show what you got. But a lot of that stuff was never discussed. But I mean, just kind of go back to my center point, like, why are a lot of those coaches in it if they're not going to be advocating for those
Exactly.
players that want to play at the next level? And like I said, I've played
Mm-hmm.
with players, I've talked with players that said that, and these were all city players, never had a conversation with the head coach or position coach about playing college. Never. And like really good players playing on a 5A level. So pretty big, I mean, big schools, big high schools, and playing at all
Mm-hmm.
city level, man, never had a conversation. So, and that caused them to have some missteps as they were transitioning into college. Man, I could think of one story where some guys they're really good athletes, got down to college and found out that they were missing a class. So they were practicing with the team. This was D1. They were practicing with the D1 school, and then halfway through the season, they were looking at obviously red shirt that year. But halfway through the season, they pulled them out, said they were missing a class, and you would think like, well, you have a counselor at school, you have coaches at school, like you have all
Mm-hmm.
these
Listen.
people in place that you're having these conversations with, or at least supposed to be having these conversations with, about putting you in a position to be successful or being eligible. And you spoke about the clearinghouse, and we can get into the FOSFAs and filling out financial. Like it goes on and on and on. Like as far as like all these
Man.
things that are set
Right.
up for you to do, to be eligible, to be ready to play. And there were so many gaps in the process. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to put all the blame on them. Some of that is on the player as well, as far as being
Right.
proactive and asking questions. But even to that point,
Mm-hmm.
just depending on your background and where you're from, you're looking at 16, 17, even sometimes 18-year-old kids, they may not know how to articulate what they need. They may
Mm-hmm.
not be that forward thinking as far as what they need. They've been just
Yeah.
they know the playbook, but
Right.
other than that's about it.
Right.
But there are so many. I've seen so many, and don't get me wrong, it's gotten better. But there's been so
Mm-hmm.
much damage has been done in the past. So many people have been hurt in the past as far as some missed opportunities because there was not a process put in place by a lot of these high schools, and that's from the principal through the counselor through the head coaches. As far as those entities getting together and like, okay, let's put together some type of process where if we do have kids that are interested in playing at the next level, we're checking all the boxes with clearinghouse, with FOSFA, with making sure they're taking all the core classes that are necessary to be eligible.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like they didn't care. Like once that time was up for that athlete to play, the school was just like, you're on your own. And that's
Yeah.
been tough to listen to because there's been, and it doesn't matter where it's been, man, whether it was I'm talking to somebody in New York or Chicago or Florida or Texas or Louisiana, like it's been the same story. So, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
hopeful that it's getting a lot better. And I've heard stories like current players and things of that nature. Like, and I guess it really just depends on the area. So, like I'm here in Texas, so
Right.
Texas obviously is a little bananas when it comes to football specifically. So those
Oh yeah, for
processes
sure.
aren't in place here. So it's very rarely if a kid
Yeah.
doesn't have the talent or doesn't want to play that he won't have opportunity somewhere. The city I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
every year they put out in the paper like all the kids that are going to college, and it's a lot. Like it's a lot. Like it doesn't matter whether it's lacrosse,
Yeah.
badminton, volleyball, basketball. Like they have a list like in
Mm,
paper, like, and it's probably 6 or 7 high schools in this area, and they're sending probably 60 to 70 kids on scholarships. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
amazing, man.
yeah. So
I
they're looking
love it.
anywhere from 10 to
I
12
love it.
kids going on scholarship at each school every year. Like, and that's because they have a process in place of those kids that want to play at
Right.
the next level, and that those coaches see that they can have the talent, obviously within reason. They're giving them opportunities, and they'll say this kid is going to Mercer, and this kid is going to the University of New York, and this kid is going
Mm-hmm.
to Hofstra. Like, I'm like, how do you go to Hofstra? Like how you getting recruited to Hofstra?
Right.
But those coaches,
Right.
and that you get that. So, and the whole recruiting thing has become so automated now. So there are a lot of platforms now to where you can enter information into a database as well that wasn't set up before.
Mm-hmm.
To where it's just like you spoke of earlier, giving that additional exposure to a lot of kids. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just unfortunate. And I guess that's part of just growing and learning. Like there has to be a significant set of generations that suffer as that
Right.
transition happens and that transition grows. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a little sobering to see like how consistent it is across the country, and how it looks like coaches really. It looks, just from my perspective, it looked like coaches didn't care for some of those athletes who just needed a little extra help. Like I said.
Yeah. I mean, I think it all depends, and I think you alluded to it, like, why did you get into coaching, right? Like, is it so you can move up in your coaching ranks and have aspirations of going from high school to local college to bigger college? Like, is that your goal, or is it to truly help kids, right, and to truly help them reach their full potential? Because I think there's a lot of people out there. We had it's funny that you said one of my little brother, like not my actual little brother, but he was like my best friend's little brother, so we call him little brother. But he had that same situation. He went to the same high school I did, and somewhere down the line he went and played at University of Akron, got a full scholarship to Akron, was in there in the summertime working out with the team, was getting ready for camp, and then as school started rolling around, it was like, hey, you didn't finish a class. And so he was already on campus, man, and so he got sent home. And just
Oh yeah,
imagine what that
yeah.
does to a kid's mindset, man. Like, I'm near, like, especially coming from backgrounds that we come from, and different backgrounds, and kids who come from even worse backgrounds, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's their chance, that's their moment. They're trying to break a generational
Oh yeah.
curse, and they're the ones to do it. And they're on campus, they're there, they think they did everything in their mind right, and then they get sent home.
No, no,
Kids
no,
ain't coming back
no.
from that. You know what I'm saying? You ain't coming back from that mentally. Like, that breaks a kid. And so it's sad because coaches, they put kids in these situations where it could be easily avoided. It could be easily avoided if somebody just paid a little bit more attention, right? Somebody paid a little bit more attention. Somebody cared a little bit more about everybody, as opposed to the kids
Right,
who the shining star,
mm-hmm.
right? Like the kid who's going
Right.
D1, has 3.0 GPA or higher. He's gonna get whatever he needs, right? Like, he's gonna get whatever. They're gonna make sure he's taking the ACT. They're gonna make sure he got all that going on. Or the kid who is not getting in any trouble, who's not, a burden, who doesn't. So, but the kids who maybe have a little home issues that are tough to get by, maybe have this, maybe have some trauma that they don't know how to address, and so they lashing out. Those are the kids who have talent, but just don't know. If
Right.
you don't know what you
Right.
don't know.
Right.
So
Right.
if nobody has been there to tell them, they don't know. So it's up to you as a coach and a counselor and a principal and somebody in an administrative role to truly look out for the kid, even though they may not know, be able to look out for themselves. And if you present them with that, and like you were saying, some kids, they just going, their egos in the way, they just not going. That's fine. right? Like that's tough, but you did everything you can do in order to get that kid a better situation. But if you were trying to and take personal issues with kids, because I see some coaches like, oh, he cussed me out. I'm not looking out for him. Like, man, get over yourself. like this, get over yourself, man. like you trying to hold this kid's future in your hand, like you some type of prophet or some type of like God, where you can control this kid's future, and he cussed you out because he had a bad day. Well,
Right.
what if he didn't eat that day? What if his parents got in a fight? What if his lights was off and he had a bad day? You just caught him at the bad
No,
moment.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you don't. It happens, but you hold a grudge against a 16-year-old kid, and you jeopardizing his future
Right.
because he done pissed you off. Like that. That's you in it for the wrong
Man,
reasons.
that's another podcast. like man,
Oh, bro, all
I have
day,
so many
all
examples,
day.
and like I said, we yeah, man, like we have so many examples of tangible examples of where coaches, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, misuse their authority as it relates to providing kids opportunities, and that's playing in college. That's even playing playing in high school, even junior varsity, things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
because the coach got his feelings hurt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's on a power trip. He's on a power trip, and he's got his feelings hurt, and now you jeopardizing the kid's whole future. You changing the whole trajectory of his life because you got mad at him for a moment. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Right, right,
don't
and
make sense to me.
and the
But
coach is supposed to be the
it is
adult.
what it is.
Uh,
Exactly.
and don't get me wrong,
Exactly.
yeah, dealing
Exactly.
with kids, especially that many kids, especially once they in high school, it's oh
It's
yeah,
tough.
it's well, so and that's why I say
It,
like
it,
it takes for somebody to be in it for the right reason. Uh,
Right. That's what I'm saying. If you in it for yourself, you're gonna get your feelings hurt when these kids cuss you out because you trying to deal with 50, 70 personalities, right? As a teenager that got all these going through puberty, going through all this stuff, and you trying to deal with that in you one person. So I get it. It's tough. Like it's hard. Kids, they're ruthless. They talk, they like the
yeah,
respect levels going. I seen it every day. It's tough. But when you in it for the right reasons, you kind of can navigate that, right? And it's tough. You're gonna have to have some long prayers at home. You're gonna have some moments where you just sitting in silence. But it's all worth it because sometimes those kids be
no,
the one who need it the most. And you change their life,
mm-hmm.
they will never forget you. They come back to school 15, 10 years later, graduated, talking about how you changed their life. Now you have them
Yeah,
speak to some kids, that was just like them. So that's what it is, man. But you just got to get
right.
over
No, and
yourself in that
I'm gonna
moment.
cure too, and I know there is some. I just don't know to what extent. A lot of these coaches are having, like adolescent training, emotional training. Because emotional intelligence is huge, and like to your point, a lot of us don't come in with a lot of emotional intelligence. So a lot of things are happening. So we don't know how to cope. We don't know how to handle those things. And specifically, we don't know how to articulate those things to
Hmm.
other people. So I'm just a little curious of
Right.
how much training coaches are receiving. Because we know counselors are getting it. We even know some of the administration, they're getting, a lot of that tutoring and training as it relates to how to handle,
Hmm.
some of the lack of emotional intelligence with some of these teenagers. I'm just curious of how much of that coaches are handling. Coaches are actually having to deal with it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, and that's a great question. I think all coaches, if you work with any type of
Right.
kid, you need to do trauma training. You have to do, and you talk emotional intelligence. You have to do some of that because you have to understand that if a kid's going through some trauma, that's chemically messing up their brain in certain moments, right? Like they can't control why they're doing certain things. So if you know that, now when they act out, you know where it's coming from other than, oh, they're just a bad kid, they just disrespectful. No, why is it coming out at that moment, right? And so I think to go to your point, I think every coach should take some type of trauma, some type
Right.
of counselor training, and counselors should be there in some type of training to handle
Right.
adolescence and the mindset
Well, and I
that a
know
kid
a
goes
lot of
through.
them may have had to do some of that if they were tied to a classroom portion of it. But the caveat out here in Texas is a lot of the
Hmm.
coaches they just coach. They just get paid to coach. They don't even teach anything. So
That's amazing, man. That like
right.
that's unheard of up here. Like you like
Mm-hmm.
in Ohio, you were a teacher. You were
Yeah.
a teacher in order to be a coach. For one, because they're not trying to pay you for real. They just trying to give you a stipend on top of what you're already making.
Right.
So
Take this
so
$1,500 and
so you
you got
know
the basketball team.
Yep. Here you go, man. Here you go. Here you go. But yeah, nah. But I think obviously Texas is a whole nother. That's a whole nother world in sports, and I mean, but it's great because when you
Yeah.
can
Oh yeah.
solely coach, because I think, and that's why I think a lot of kids in Texas they succeed, um, in college because it's already a system. It's already ran in a way like a
Oh
college,
yeah.
as far as like the structure of the sports, right? Because it's tough when you got your head coach is your math teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's tough. Like my head coach was
Mm-hmm.
my math teacher, so like I get it because like it's tough, but you see him every day, all
That's
day.
right.
You don't get that break. You don't get to be like a high school student. You know what I'm saying? Because like
Right.
you forever under the microscope. But when you kind of when you kind of have a coach who's just solely a coach, he can be around the school, he can be there, but
Yeah.
you still have a separation. The off season, you don't see him every day. You can still be like,
Right.
all right, I can be a kid in a way. You know what I'm saying? And I think when you go to college and you realize that you don't see your coach every day, that blew my mind when I went to college and it was like in the off season and it was like, oh, I don't have to
Just
see
work
you
out.
all
That's
like
it.
you come to work out, but there's rules that you can't necessarily be here all the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't like it blew my mind. I was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
like a job now. Like we doing 6 a.m. workouts, but I don't have to see you around
Right.
campus unless I come to the
Mm-hmm.
stadium. Like I don't, you know what I'm saying? So like it kind of
Right.
changed
Well, it's kind
everything
of funny
for
when
me in
you had
that
mentioned
aspect.
like kids out here in Texas, like just having like a college mindset. When I first moved out here, and I was leaving out going somewhere, and I was super early, man. So I was on the road like 6 o'clock, and I was riding by the high school, and they were out there practicing 6 a.m. like full pads, like straight out practice. So I
Mm-mm.
was like, yeah, to your point, like they just, they have a college mindset to where like, all right, you're gonna get this football in, you're getting 2-3 hours in before you go to class, and then after school we getting some more
Yeah,
work in. So they're already getting 2 a days in, and it ain't 2 a days. So it's just a whole another mindset. Uh, but to
man.
your point, mm-hmm.
That's why y'all where y'all at, man. Like Ohio, we a little far behind on that aspect of it. Like, it's you may work out at 6 in the morning, but you damn sure ain't doing no practices at 6 in the morning. Like
Right.
no. But you're right. And a lot of times, and I see it all the time. I used to work in high school, man. They have um, it's an inner city school. Uh, Tons of athletes, man. Like state runner ups, go to state every year in track, won basketball, multiple state championships. A ton of athletes just throughout the whole school in multiple sports. But for some reason, they don't translate to college well. They don't cut it in college. I mean, and they really like Olympic style type of sprinters. You know what I'm saying? Like football, they've got dudes. Basketball, 6'8" dudes. Like they legit. But when it comes to college, they don't cut it. And I'm sitting there, I'm talking to one of the teachers. I'm like, why? And I'm just thinking, like, why is it that they can do all this, but then they can't cut it in college? But it goes to your point. They're not grooming them to be successful in college. They're grooming them to be successful in high school. Right. And it's a whole different game. It's a whole different ball game when you can sleep in and barely go to class and your school starts at 8 and you roll in at 7:59. And then in college you gotta be at weights at 6:30 and then go to class and then pass the class and then go to practice and then go to homeroom, you know what I'm saying? Then go to study
Right.
tables, then go to watch film, and then maybe you sleep and then wake up do it again. We're not conditioned to do that. So when they
Oh
have
yeah.
to do that,
it's culture shock.
They don't know how to do it.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah, for sure, 100%,
Uh,
100%.
so how? Let's talk about like we talked about so many things.
Yeah, sorry, we went off on a whole different. Sorry, man.
So how was like your college recruiting process? Like, can you kind of speak to that a little bit? Like, how did that go? I know you said like maybe either during your junior year or right after junior year, you kind of already had those feelers out to Buffalo. But like, who else was reaching out to you? Like, how did that process go? Like, did your coaches kind of help you through that?
Yeah, so my and it's funny because I was a little naive to the recruiting process. I didn't understand how much schooling and ACT played a part into how you were getting recruited. Like I said, I started getting letters as a sophomore in high school. So I never was a bad kid, never got in trouble, never got suspended. But like school, I just did the bare minimum just to be eligible, right? Okay, if it's playing a 2.0 is the eligibility, I get a 2.1, 2.0. And then, I didn't have no
Right.
wiggle room to like fail a class. And it was never hard. I just didn't really care about it. But as I was getting recruited more, and like I said, I would go to all these camps, and the coaches would love me. They would pull me aside. I went to Michigan State camp, and it was only they invited me. They invited the defensive player and offensive player out of 300 kids into the stadium to do one-on-ones, and I was the defensive player that was selected. So like, and then like having going to Michigan camp, going to Ohio State camp, going, so I'm getting all this buzz around me, especially after my junior year when I had a success 100 something 99 tackles. It was big, but then I started, my grades wasn't really the best, and then I took the ACT, and and this is where like I didn't
Right.
know the importance of the ACT. Right, I was just told to take this test, and this is why I think like coaches can be a little bit more diligent as a young age. Like, no, freshman, no, you gotta. This is a reason why you had to
Right.
take this test, other than take this test. And so I was just thinking it's like a regular math test, a regular English. I'm like, I'm in these classes now, like I'm passing them, so like I don't need no help. And so, man, I took the
Okay.
first time I got a 14 on it, the ACT, and like and I didn't take the SAT. I was going to, and then they were just like, no, you already got the feel for the ACT. Take the ACT.
Okay.
I ended up taking the ACT 5 times in a year span from March of my junior year to March of my senior. I took it 5 times. I had to get, and each time I took it, more schools started falling off because now like I had like ACC schools, the Big East at the time, like and I'm an hour from UC and an hour from Columbus and 2 hours from IU Indiana, so you know what I'm saying,
Right.
so I'm kind of like in a central area, and Ohio has
Right.
like 8 or 9 D1 schools for football. So I'm in like a central location, and the first time I took it, I got a 14. Like Purdue, I remember Purdue didn't hit me back at all. I went to West Virginia, got invited to a game at West Virginia, Notre Dame, like, was at those games. After that, next time I took it, out of 15, those schools didn't hit me back. Wasn't returning my calls. The coaches wasn't, returning my text messages. So it was a rude awakening to like, I didn't know that I had to get into the
Okay.
school academically.
Right. Right. No. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it just never registered with me that, oh no, you got to get into the school academically. Like at least be close, and then you're athletic. That coaches can wiggle some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like unless you like the 5-star. Like I wasn't that, right. So unless that's the very few and far between that like can just go there
Right.
without having some help, right. So I didn't realize that. So I had to take it 5 times. So yeah, so after having my mom would say I had shoe boxes full of letters, invitations. I mean, like 6, 7. I would put them in alphabetical order about schools that like I had. And at the time we had business cards, man. I had like 150 business
Wow.
cards just from different schools of coaches. So I ended up with 5 offers after all that was staying. After my 5 ACT attempts, I still had 5 offers. I had Buffalo, Ball State, Eastern Michigan, Eastern and Western Kentucky. Those are my offers, and those were riding with me. They was like, we want you, we still want you. And then I took my recruiting visit. I took 2 official visits.
Right.
I had 5 scheduled because that's how many you had. But I took two. I went to Ball State. Liked it, but it was
Yeah.
different. Recruiting visits are a little different, man. As you know, they a little different. They a little different. And then I went to Buffalo the very next week, and I was like, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of coaches calling. I'm tired of people asking me where I'm going. I'm tired of failing a test and realizing and then not getting called back. It was just a grind, man, and that wasn't really mentally
Right.
prepared
Yeah.
for all of that, right? Like, 16, 17-year-old kid, you got grown men calling all the time. You got all these people pressuring you, and I just got tired of it. And I love Buffalo. I love the coach, and I was like, you know what? I'm committing. And then the moment after that, my high school coach was like, the moment you commit, you call all these other coaches and tell them you committed. And I was like, oh. He was like, no. He's like, you do that so then they know that for one, it tells your school that you committed to, that you're committed. And for two, it allows the other
Right.
coaches to go to other people. And so I was
Right.
like, okay, that's the honorable thing to do, right? So I called all these schools. I remember I called and I had to tell them, hey, I committed to Buffalo. And I didn't know that you could decommit. Like, so I didn't know. I was just like, all right, well, I committed, until you
Right.
sign the paper, you can decommit. And I was like, I didn't know until 2 weeks before signing day, one of my boys decommitted from Wisconsin and signed with Louisville. I said, bro, you can do that? I was like, so this whole time I'm telling these coaches that I'm done, I'm off the market, and I really could, continue to pursue it. But yeah, it was great, man. But it was a grind
Right.
mentally because I just got tired. I just got tired of being pulled out of class. I got tired of trying to schedule, basketball season was coming on after football and I couldn't go here. I missed a couple games because I was getting recruited. And I mean, like, I was just
Right.
like, I just want to be done with it, man. so Buffalo came along, man,
Okay.
and
So
I
how was that
loved
day
every
when
minute
you
of it.
actually signed? Like, how was that feeling? Mm-hmm.
Signing day was amazing, man. It was amazing. I signed, and one of my best friends he signed to a smaller school in Ohio. So we both signed on the same day, and it was great. And ironically enough, like, and we had to fax it in, man. And our school, we had a snow day. It was February, and we had a snow day, so our school was closed. So we had to go up there. The coach had to let us in. We had to sign it, and they had to fax it
Right.
over before a certain time period. And the coaches had to get it. But man, it was a great day because when you can finally, like, your hard work is starting to pay off. You know what I'm saying? Like your hard work is starting to pay off, and I was fortunate enough to go D1, so my school was paid for, and so the joy on my parents and my family's face when they knew that I had an opportunity
Right.
and I capitalized on it, when a lot of people wouldn't, especially coming
Mm-hmm.
from who look like me. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't have this opportunity to get a free education for 5 years to do this. So it was a great moment, one I'll never
Yeah.
forget.
Thank you for joining us on episode 1 for Josh Copeland's More Than Sports podcast interview. Again, please like, subscribe if you'd like to be kept up to date with new content. Please tune in next week as Josh gets into life after football and a lot of his nonprofit work. Again, if you want your story shared, please write us at mystory@morethansportspodcast.com. We'll see you next week.
won't stop, and I won't say what you want, but I never been scared, no, I never been scared, no, I never been scared. I just won't stop, and I won't stop, and I won't stop, and I won't stop, and I won't